Hey, how you doing? Um, Something popped up in my head the other day. I had something happen to me yesterday, and it made me. As I was lying and awake in bed this morning, it made me really ponder the idea of fatherhood. What does it mean to be a dad? And as I sat there and was thinking about fatherhood and being a parent, I went on this huge journey in my head, and I'll try to boil it down very quickly. Um, if you'd asked me 20 years ago what it meant to be a dad, uh, I wouldn't have had a clue. 20 years ago, I wasn't ready to be a dad. Um, in fact, 20 years ago, I was uh, I was in a relationship, and the idea of becoming a father at that point was just mind blowing. Um, it scared the crap out of me. Bringing someone into the world, being responsible for them, mostly, just not wanting to screw somebody else up. I realized that I was already, pretty screwed up. And to be responsible for somebody else and trying not to mess them up when myself was messed up was a pretty daunting idea. Um, but as I got older, and I found my way in this world and I became more spiritually sound, um, I was drawn to the idea of having children. I got married a second time and to this amazing woman. Oh man, my wife is amazing. She was truly a gift from God. There are lots of typical cracks, like, oh, I knew I found the one when I found somebody that could put up with me. That's partially true. But I really like the idea of having a child. And, and in part, that was helped by the fact that she had already had a child from a previous relationship. And so I kind of, being around Kane allowed me to kind of open up and experience that pseudo stepfatherhood. And I think the biggest thing was, though, I'd come a long way spiritually. Um, but I think for me, if you had asked me back then, with my first child, Walter, what it meant to be a dad, it meant wanting to share my life with someone else, with someone new, creating a new life out of love, because I had an overabundance of love inside me, and that just spills out and creates another person. And I guess in a way, that's kind of how I see God, or I ponder God in creating humanity. That he just had so much love, he couldn't help but keep it all inside, and it just spilled out and created us. um, as now that I'm the stepfather of one and the father of five. I have four boys, one young man, four boys, and one beautiful little girl. I will tell you that what I've come to know about fatherhood is it is about love, uh, but it's about service. One of the things that's very important for me as a father is that mom always comes first. Because what I've found is if you put the kids first, uh, your spouse and you can get resentful of each other, and your bond is more important than anything in the home if you want to create a excellent home filled with love. You and your spouse are the me and my spouse, we're the bedrock of this home. And so I, next to God, she is the highest thing. And God is above her because God teaches me how to take care of her. Um, so it's God, then it's mom, then it's kids, then it's work. Um, and out of that love, it's not just a love like, when I was younger, you think about love being, being loved. And, you have this great arc, you're born as a child, and you're weighted on hand and foot. And then as you mature, you're expected to flip that around, and instead of being taken care of, to take care of others. And so I largely see fatherhood as being of service. And I've really tried to dedicate myself over the last few years into being a man of service, not just to my wife, not just to God, not just to my wife, just to my children, but even to those people that I see around me. And I'm constantly looking to see how I can be in service to others. Do I fail daily? Yes. But I'm definitely a better man than I was yesterday or the day before or a week ago or a year ago or a decade ago. And I attribute that largely to loving and the giving of self, and through that giving of self, service, giving service to others, giving up my time, treasure, and talent to God, my wife, my children, and everyone else around me. You know, the thing that brought this all kind of to my head was yesterday, for the last week. I'll step back even further and I'll try to make it quick. My oldest, Walter, we have a pasture out behind our house, and he, out in his exploring, he found an old snow shovel, and it was the kind where the shaft was made out of a metal tube. And he came up. I came home one day, and he was working on something. And Walter is always trying to make something. And he's like, "Hey, I'm gonna turn this into a machete." He didn't say machete, but that's what he was describing. And he had taken this metal tube and he had hammered it down, and then he had removed the T handle off the end of it. And he's like, "I'd really like, can we make this into something?" And I'll be honest, I'm looking at this ratty piece of metal that's been hammered down, and I'm just like, this is not going to make a good machete. But it had been a while since I had the opportunity to work with Walter on something, so I was like, you know what? He's a good kid. I really need to do this for him. I can see how excited he is. And I didn't really take a lot of time to properly research. I figured, how to do this. I just figured we'd wing it. So anyway, I decided pretty early on we weren't going to use his piece of metal, his premium piece of metal, and I got some stuff together, and I kind of formulated a plan. And yesterday we executed, and because we scheduled it, and we were out there and we were working on it, and it did not go according to plan. It didn't go according to plan, but we adapted, and at one point, I'd done some welding for the project, and I had done some grinding, and the piece of metal was pretty hot. So I decided that I needed a break, he needed a break, and I had other things I needed to do, so I stopped, and I push mowed the yard, and I did it because blah blah blah, exercise and all that stuff, and health reasons. And so I come back to finish it, and I didn't even call and be like, hey, let's start working on this again. I just started working on it. Well, he was so into doing this that he was keeping an eye on me. Walter always keeps an eye on what he wants. And as soon as he saw me in the garage working, he was in there in a second. And I was a little bit grouchy. And it wasn't working right, and I felt bad for him. I wanted to do something really cool for him, and it wasn't working out. And we finally got it done, and I looked down and was like, well, I don't think it's much of a machete, but it's the best I could do for you, buddy. And he looked at me without even skipping a beat, and he's like, that's okay, Dad. I really didn't need this to work. I just really wanted to spend time with you. Made my day. It made my day. It's making my day today. There are so many moments in fatherhood where you you're about ready to lose your mind. These little people running around just like, they seem like their mission sometimes is just to mess up life. uh, but it's so beautiful. And I could tell you so many stories, and I'm not. But being a dad is so amazing, and I'm glad because my children have drawn me closer to God. I'm thankful because my children are each unique and they each draw things out of me. And if I let them and I let God work through them, they help me become a better person. And it's like I'm helping them and I'm loving them and I'm nurturing them and teaching them, and they're teaching me. And I've lived such an amazing life. I've got to experience such a great many things. But by far, fatherhood has been the most challenging and the most rewarding thing I've ever experienced in my life, and I continue to experience. I don't know. That's all I got to say about that.